Lisa Martinez stood by the window of her office, staring at the enormous holographic message floating above her desk. The soft blue glow illuminated her face as she read it for the 5th time. After 50 years since humanity's first contact with alien life, the impossible had happened. Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Olympics. "They don't think we can compete," she said to herself, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. "This is just political." Lisa knew what this invitation really meant. As Earth's newly appointed Olympic delegation leader, she understood the politics at play. The Galactic Council, with its hundreds of advanced species, was extending a courtesy, nothing more. Humans were the new kids, barely spacefaring compared to civilizations that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The message chimed again, reminding her that she needed to respond. Lisa had been chosen for this role because 20 years ago, she had won 3 gold medals in the Earth Olympics. Now at 45, she worked as a diplomat, helping bridge understanding between humans and the dozen alien species that had established embassies on Earth. "Accept invitation," she said clearly. The message pulsed once and disappeared, her response sent across light years to the Galactic Council headquarters. Her office door slid open and Dan Rogers, her assistant, walked in carrying a tablet. "Did you accept?" he asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "I did. Now comes the hard part," Lisa replied. "We have 6 months to assemble a team that won't embarrass our entire species." Dan placed the tablet on her desk. "The president wants to speak with you in an hour. The news is already spreading. People are going crazy on social media." Lisa picked up the tablet and scrolled through the information. Headlines flashed by. "Humans to compete against aliens. Earth enters galactic games. Can humans stand a chance?" That last headline hit close to home. Could they? Lisa had met representatives from several alien species. The Arcturians could see ultraviolet light and had reflexes 3 times faster than the best human athletes. The Rigelians had twice the muscle density and could hold their breath for hours. Some species could even move objects with their minds. Her phone rang. It was Jack Peterson from the International Olympic Committee. "Lisa, this is incredible news," Jack said when she answered. "But we need to be realistic about our chances." "I know, Jack. The council ambassador made it very clear this is just a courtesy invitation. No one expects us to win anything. The world's best athletes are already calling me. Everyone wants to represent Earth." Lisa sighed. "We need more than just athletes. We need thinkers, problem solvers. These games test more than physical abilities." After ending the call, Lisa pulled up the official invitation again. At the bottom was a small note she hadn't noticed before. As per tradition, new species are permitted 15 representatives for their first Olympiad. Only 15 people to represent all of humanity. The task seemed impossible. Her tablet chimed with a message from Alan Wright, a retired general now working as a strategic advisor. "Just heard the news. They're setting us up to fail. But they don't know humans very well, do they?" Lisa smiled for the first time that day. The general was right. Throughout human history, people had achieved the impossible when everyone counted them out. She began making a list of qualities they would need in their team. Strength and speed wouldn't be enough. They needed creativity, adaptability, and the unique human ability to think outside the box. The Galactic Olympics were stacked against humans in every possible way. The other species had biological advantages, centuries of experience, and technologies humans barely understood. But Lisa remembered something her coach told her years ago, before her first Olympic final. The best competitors aren't always the ones expected to win. They're the ones who refuse to accept that they can't. Earth was going to the Galactic Olympics, and Lisa Martinez was determined that humanity would show the galaxy exactly what humans could do. Lisa sat at the head of a long table in a government building in Washington, D.C. Screens around the room showed profiles of potential team members. For 3 weeks, she had reviewed thousands of applications from the best minds and athletes Earth had to offer. "We need to think differently," Lisa said to the small committee helping her. "The aliens expect us to bring our strongest, our fastest. But that won't be enough." Karen Ellis, a sports psychologist on the committee, nodded in agreement. "If we compete on their terms, we lose. We need people who solve problems in unique ways." Lisa turned to a screen showing the face of John Blake. At 32, he wasn't an athlete. He was an engineer known for building strange but effective machines out of scrap parts. His solutions to problems often seemed crazy until they worked. "Him," Lisa said, pointing. "He's our first pick." Some committee members looked confused, but Lisa stood firm. One by one, she selected her team. Samantha Wu, a mathematician who could spot patterns faster than computers. Eric Johnson, a soldier who once survived 2 weeks alone in harsh conditions when his unit was lost. Olivia Carter, an astronaut who adapted to zero gravity faster than anyone in NASA history. Kevin Patel, a physicist obsessed with understanding alien technology since first contact. By the end of the day, Lisa had selected 12 team members, none of them what people expected. When the list was made public, the backlash was immediate. "This is who's representing Earth," a famous sports announcer yelled on his show. "A weird engineer. A math nerd. Where are our Olympic champions?" Lisa ignored the criticism. She had picked 3 Olympic athletes too, a gymnast, a swimmer, and a runner. But she knew athletic ability alone wouldn't be enough. 2 weeks later, the team gathered at a training facility in Colorado. Lisa watched them from across the room, nervous about their first meeting. "You're probably wondering why you're here," she said when they were all seated. "You're wondering why I chose you over others who seem more qualified." John Blake raised his hand. "I've been wondering that since I got your call. I build weird machines in my garage. I'm not exactly Olympic material." "That's exactly why you're here," Lisa replied. "The Galactic Olympics aren't just about physical strength. They test problem-solving, adaptability, and thinking in ways we can't even imagine yet." She showed them videos of previous Galactic Olympics that Earth had received since first contact. Aliens solving complex puzzles while suspended in anti-gravity fields. Species using their unique abilities to navigate obstacle courses that changed constantly. "We can't match them physically," Lisa continued. "The Arcturians have been the champions for 300 years. They have reflexes 3 times faster than ours. The Rigelians can lift 10 times their body weight. So why even try?" asked Ryan Peters, one of the Olympic athletes on the team. Samantha Wu spoke up. "Because we think differently. I studied these games. They follow patterns, traditions. These species have competed the same way for centuries." Kevin nodded excitedly. "They rely on their natural advantages, but they lack our creativity." Over the next few months, the team trained unlike any Olympic team before. They didn't just work on physical skills. They solved puzzles blindfolded, built machines with limited supplies, and learned to communicate without words. The media continued to mock them. Alien ambassadors on Earth watched their training with amusement. No one believed they had a chance. One evening, Lisa found John in the workshop, building a strange device. "What's that?" she asked. "Not sure yet," he replied with a smile. "But I think it might surprise some aliens." Lisa looked around at her unusual team. In 3 days, they would leave Earth to compete against the most advanced species in the galaxy. No one expected them to win. No one except her. "They have no idea what humans are capable of," she thought. "And that will be our greatest advantage." The human ship docked at Nexus Station after a 2-week journey through space. Lisa led her team down the exit ramp, and they stood in awe at the massive space station built specifically for the Galactic Olympics. Nexus Station was a giant ring floating in space, with sections branching out like spokes on a wheel. The structure was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Lights of every color flashed around them, and strange sounds echoed through the huge open areas. "Stay together," Lisa said to her team. "Remember, we're representing all of Earth." An alien with blue skin and 4 arms approached them. It wore a uniform with the Galactic Olympic symbol, a spiral of stars surrounding a torch. "Welcome, Earth delegation," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Zorax, your guide. Please follow me to your quarters." The team followed Zorax through crowded corridors filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some floated instead of walking. Others moved on many legs. A group of glowing orbs hovered nearby, which Zorax explained was actually a single being, a colony consciousness from the Betelgeuse system. Lisa noticed how the other delegations looked at them, some with curiosity, others with amusement, and many with what seemed like pity. They finally reached their quarters after walking for 20 minutes. The room was small and located in the farthest section of the station. "These are our quarters?" John asked, looking around at the cramped space with 15 small beds. "Yes," Zorax replied. As a first-time participant, Earth has been assigned standard newcomer accommodations. The opening ceremony begins in 3 hours. I suggest you rest until then. After Zorax left, the team explored their small living area. The windows looked out into empty space, far from the center of activity. "They put us as far away as possible," Eric said, dropping his bag on a bed. Kevin was examining a strange device on the wall. "This is amazing technology," he said excitedly. "I think it's a matter replicator for food and supplies." "At least they gave us something good," Samantha said with a small smile. 3 hours later, dressed in their blue and white Earth uniforms, the team made their way to the central arena for the opening ceremony. The arena was enormous, with seating for thousands of beings. In the center was a large platform where each delegation would be introduced. Lisa felt her heart race as they waited their turn. The announcer, a tall alien with a voice that boomed through the arena, introduced each delegation. The powerful Arcturians received huge cheers. The Rigelians, with their massive frames and proud stance, got almost as much applause. "And now," the announcer said, "we welcome for the first time the delegation from the planet Earth, a Level 2 civilization from the outer spiral arm." The team walked onto the platform. The applause was polite but brief. Many spectators seemed to be talking among themselves or looking at their devices instead of paying attention. "They don't think we matter," Olivia whispered. "Good," Lisa replied. "Let them underestimate us." After the ceremony, a reception was held for all delegations. The human team stuck together as they moved through the crowd of aliens. Lisa tried to introduce herself to leaders from other worlds, but many gave quick nods before moving on to speak with more important delegations. "The Arcturian leader just laughed when I told him I was looking forward to competing," Ryan said, rejoining the group. "He said they were honored to have us observe how real competitors perform." Lisa noticed Samantha hadn't spoken much since they arrived. She was watching everything with intense focus. "What are you thinking?" Lisa asked her. "I'm noticing patterns," Samantha replied quietly, "in how they interact, how they move, how they treat each other. There's a strict order to everything, rules they all follow without question." Lisa smiled. This was exactly why she had chosen Samantha. "Keep watching," she told her. "We need to understand everything we can before the games begin tomorrow." As the reception ended, a tall Rigelian approached Lisa. "Your species is brave to come here," he said. "Just finishing the events without injury will be considered a success for Earth." The team returned to their quarters, feeling the weight of what they faced. 127 civilizations would compete tomorrow, and Earth was expected to finish last. "Get some sleep," Lisa told her team. "Tomorrow, we show the galaxy what humans can do." The first day of competition arrived. Lisa and her team stood in a large chamber with representatives from all competing species. A holographic display showed the day's events and where each team would compete. "We have 4 events today," Lisa told her team after reading the display. "A strength test, a speed challenge, a puzzle-solving event, and something called quantum perception. "I'll take the puzzle challenge," Samantha said immediately. Lisa nodded. "Eric, you take strength. Ryan, you're our fastest, so you handle speed. Kevin, the quantum perception sounds like it might involve physics, so that's yours." They split up to their assigned areas. The rest of the team could watch on screens placed throughout the station. Eric's event was first. He entered an arena where competitors had to lift and move increasingly heavy objects. The Regelians dominated, lifting objects that weighed tons with ease. The Arcturians used their 4 arms and dense muscles to excel as well. When Eric's turn came, he stepped forward confidently. The first object was a metal cube. The computer announced its weight as 200 kilograms. Eric used proper lifting technique, but the strain showed on his face. He managed to move it the required distance, but it took all his strength. The next object was 500 kilograms. Eric couldn't lift it fully, no matter how hard he tried. He was eliminated in the second round, placing 97th out of 127 competitors. Ryan faced a similar outcome in the speed challenge. The course was a complex track with obstacles. Ryan ran faster than any human could, but the Arcturians moved in blurs, and beings from a planet called Celtor seemed to teleport short distances. Ryan finished 89th. Kevin's quantum perception challenge was held in a dark room, with small points of light appearing and disappearing. Competitors had to predict where lights would appear next. Most aliens seemed to sense patterns humans couldn't perceive. Kevin used his knowledge of physics to make educated guesses, but finished 112th. The team's hopes rested on Samantha in the puzzle challenge. The competitors faced a 3-dimensional puzzle that rearranged itself constantly. Many aliens solved it quickly using what appeared to be telepathic abilities or senses humans didn't possess. Samantha stared at the puzzle intently, her fingers moving rapidly as she calculated possibilities. While she didn't finish near the top, she surprised everyone by placing 63rd, the best human performance of the day. By evening, the results from all events were displayed on screens throughout the station. Earth ranked 127th out of 127 civilizations. The Arcturians led, followed closely by the Regelians and a species called the Novan Collective. Back in their quarters, the mood was somber. "We knew this would be difficult," Lisa said, trying to encourage her team. "But we learned a lot today." "We learned we don't belong here," Ryan said bitterly. "Those aliens are literally built different than us. Some have extra limbs or can see things we can't even perceive." "That's exactly the point," Samantha interrupted. She had been quiet since returning from her event. "I've been watching all day. These competitions are designed for beings with specific physical advantages, but they're also incredibly rigid." She pulled out her tablet and showed them recordings of various events. "Look here," she pointed. "The Arcturians always used the same technique. The Regelians followed the same pattern every time. For thousands of years, they've competed the same way." John nodded excitedly. "They're not adapting. They don't need to because they're naturally superior. But that's their weakness," Lisa realized. "They don't think they need to change or improve. They just rely on their biological advantages." Kevin jumped up. "Every challenge has rules. We just need to find creative ways to work within them." For the first time since arriving at the station, the team felt a spark of hope. They might not have the biological advantages of the other species, but humans had something the aliens seemed to lack: adaptability and creative problem-solving. "Tomorrow we have new events," Lisa said, "and we'll approach them in ways no one expects." That night, while the rest of the station celebrated the first day's champions, the human team stayed up late, studying recordings of the day's events and planning new strategies for the challenges ahead. Lisa called a team meeting before dawn on the second day. Everyone gathered around a table in their small quarters, tired but determined after their disappointing first day. "We need to rethink our entire approach," Lisa said. "We can't beat them at their own game." John had spent the night working with tools he brought from Earth. He placed a small device on the table. "I modified our standard competition gear," he explained. "Nothing that breaks the rules, but changes how we use the equipment." Samantha pulled up diagrams on her tablet. "I've been analyzing yesterday's events. The rules are complex but fixed. They haven't changed in centuries. That's our advantage," Kevin added excitedly. "These species are so advanced that they've stopped innovating. They rely on what already works for them." Olivia, who would compete in today's zero-gravity challenge, studied Samantha's notes carefully. "The rules say competitors must navigate from point A to point B through the obstacle field, but they don't specify how." "Exactly," Lisa said with a smile. "While other species use their natural abilities, we'll use our human advantage, creativity." They spent the next hour planning new approaches for each event. When they headed to the competition areas, they carried a sense of purpose that had been missing before. The first event was a reaction challenge. Competitors had to respond to changing patterns of light on a large screen. The Arcturians, with their superior reflexes, were expected to dominate. But John had noticed something. The patterns repeat every 37 seconds, with slight variations, he told Ryan, who would compete. "You don't need faster reflexes. You need to memorize the pattern." Ryan entered the arena with John's modified sensor that gave subtle vibrations before each pattern change. It wasn't cheating. The rules allowed personal equipment as long as it didn't interact with the competition system. When Ryan's turn came, he didn't try to react to each light. Instead, he anticipated them based on the patterns Samantha had identified. He still couldn't match the Arcturians' raw speed, but he jumped from an expected last place to finish 42nd. The other aliens looked confused at his performance. This wasn't supposed to happen. Next came Olivia in the zero-gravity challenge. Competitors had to navigate through a complex three-dimensional maze while floating freely. Most species took what seemed like the obvious path, straight through the center where the obstacles were most dense, but the path was shortest. They used their specialized abilities to twist and turn through tight spaces. Olivia chose differently. She went along the outside edge where obstacles were spaced farther apart. The path was longer, but she moved more efficiently without having to slow down for tight maneuvers. "What is the human doing?" Lisa overheard an Arcturian ask a Rigelian. "That path is inefficient." "She's taking the slower route," the Rigelian replied with a dismissive gesture. But they were wrong. By avoiding the congested center, Olivia maintained a steady pace, while others slowed to navigate tight spots. She finished 28th, shocking everyone watching. Kevin's event was next, a quantum prediction challenge similar to yesterday's, but more complex. Instead of trying to sense patterns like the other species, he applied a human theory about quantum observer effects. The act of observation affects quantum outcomes, he had explained to the team earlier. It's not about predicting where the particles will appear. It's about influencing where they appear by how you observe them. When Kevin finished 19th, whispers spread through the alien spectators. By midday, something unprecedented was happening. The human team had moved up from last place to 84th overall. It wasn't a winning position, but the improvement was remarkable. During a break, Lisa overheard two Arcturian officials talking. "The humans are performing beyond their biological capabilities," one said. "They must be using unauthorized technology. We've scanned their equipment. It's primitive but compliant with regulations," the other replied. "They're just approaching tasks differently." Lisa smiled to herself. The aliens couldn't understand what was happening because they couldn't grasp the human advantage. After thousands of years of competition, they had forgotten how to adapt and innovate. When the team gathered for lunch, the mood was completely different from the day before. They weren't just participating anymore, they were competing. "This is just the beginning," Lisa told them. "Tomorrow, we show them what humans can really do." By the third day of competition, word had spread throughout Nexus Station about the surprising human performances. Aliens from various delegations began watching the humans with increased interest. Today was crucial. Eric would compete in an endurance challenge, an event where most expected humans to fail completely. The Rigelians can go without oxygen for 15 minutes, Lisa warned as they ate breakfast. The Novans can shut down parts of their bodies to conserve energy. How can we possibly compete with that? Eric smiled. I spent 5 years in Special Forces training. We developed mental techniques to push beyond normal human limits. When Eric entered the arena, the challenge was announced. Competitors would be placed in environmental chambers, where conditions would gradually become more difficult. They had to maintain consciousness and functional capacity as long as possible. The Rigelians entered confidently. Their species evolved on a planet with extreme temperature changes and low oxygen. Other competitors had similar natural advantages. When Eric's turn came, he sat cross-legged in the chamber. As the temperature dropped and oxygen levels decreased, he used a technique called compartmentalization, focusing his mind to control his body's functions. What is the human doing? A commentator asked over the station's broadcast system. He appears to be meditating while his vital signs should be indicating distress. Eric lasted much longer than anyone expected. While he couldn't match the Rigelians, he placed 15th, far higher than any human was thought capable of. Samantha's event was next, a complex pattern-matching challenge that required competitors to predict how a three-dimensional structure would evolve over time. Most aliens approached this with their advanced sensory abilities. The Arcturians could see energy flows invisible to humans. The Novans used collective processing to calculate outcomes. Samantha took a different approach. Rather than trying to predict the entire structure, she identified key nodes that influenced the whole system. The rules state we need to predict the final state, she had explained to Lisa. They don't say we need to track every change along the way. Samantha placed 12th, causing even more confusion among the alien delegations. But the real surprise came with John's engineering challenge. Competitors were given identical sets of equipment and had to build a device that could navigate a complex obstacle course. Most aliens built elegant, technically advanced machines using standard approaches. John, however, created something that looked almost primitive in comparison, a contraption with parts used in unexpected ways. That will never work, an Arcturian official commented as John released his creation into the course. But it did work. While other machines took the expected path, John's creation climbed walls and swung over obstacles in ways the course designers hadn't anticipated. The rules specified the device had to reach the end intact, not how it got there. When John placed 8th, the station erupted with excitement and confusion. By the end of the day, Earth had climbed to 68th place overall, an improvement that was unprecedented in galactic Olympic history. The human section of the audience stands, previously empty except for their own team members, now attracted curious spectators from other worlds. During dinner, an alien with translucent skin and large eyes approached their table. Lisa recognized him as Centaur, a representative from a species known for their diplomatic skills. Your team's performance is most intriguing, Centaur said. Many are wondering how a species with your biological limitations is achieving such results. We're just competing according to the rules, Lisa replied carefully. Indeed, but you are competing differently, Centaur said. Some delegations find this concerning. Others find it fascinating. After Centaur left, Lisa gathered her team. We're getting attention now. Some good, some not so good. The Arcturians and Rigelians are particularly unhappy. Let them be unhappy, Ryan said with a grin. We're just getting started. Later that evening, as the team prepared for the next day's events, Olivia noticed a group of alien officials examining the equipment John had modified for them. They're trying to figure out our tricks, she told Lisa. Good, Lisa replied. Let them look. They won't find anything against the rules, and they won't understand what really matters. It's not the equipment that makes the difference. It's how we think. That night, the human quarters received its first visitors. younger members of several alien delegations who came to ask questions about Earth and human approaches to problem-solving. The Galactic Olympics were changing, and humanity was the cause. Lisa was summoned to a meeting with the Galactic Olympic Committee early on the fourth day. She walked into a large chamber where representatives from the most powerful species sat in a semicircle. Their faces showed varying degrees of concern and curiosity. Earth Delegation Leader Martinez, the head official, a tall Arcturian, began. Your team's performances have raised questions. Questions about what? Lisa asked, standing tall despite feeling small among these beings. About your methods, a Rigelian official said. Humans are achieving results beyond your biological capabilities. We're following all the rules, Lisa replied calmly. We've used no forbidden technology or substances. The Arcturian leaned forward. We have reviewed your equipment and found modifications. Modifications that are within regulation limits, Lisa pointed out. The rules permit equipment customization as long as it doesn't interact with competition systems or provide unfair advantage. The spirit of the games, the Rigelian began. The spirit of the games, Lisa interrupted, feeling the surge of confidence, is to celebrate diversity in approach and ability. At least, that's what your own Olympic charter states. This caused murmuring among the committee members. An elderly alien with silver skin, whom Lisa recognized as a Novan elder, spoke up. She is correct. The original purpose of these games, 10,000 years ago, was to showcase different approaches to common challenges. The meeting ended without any official action against the human team, but Lisa knew they had made powerful enemies. When she returned to her team, they were preparing for the day's events. What happened? Samantha asked. They're not happy about our success, Lisa explained. They can't disqualify us because we haven't broken any rules, but they're watching us closely now. Kevin would compete in today's quantum mechanics challenge, where competitors had to manipulate energy fields to create specific patterns. I've been studying the rules all night, he told the team. They never specify that we must use the standard method. They only care about the end result. When Kevin entered the competition area, he approached the energy field differently than the other competitors. While they used mental abilities to directly influence the quantum particles, Kevin applied a theory about observer effects that had been dismissed by most alien scientists centuries ago. The results shocked everyone. Kevin placed fifth, the highest human placement yet. By midday, other delegations began filing formal protests. A crowd gathered outside the judges' chambers where alien officials argued loudly about the human approach. They're exploiting loopholes, an Arcturian representative shouted. They're approaching challenges in ways we haven't considered, countered a young Celter. That should be celebrated, not punished. Back at their quarters, the human team watched the debate unfold on their screens while preparing for the afternoon events. They're trying to get us disqualified, Ryan said angrily. No, Samantha replied, still studying data from previous competitions. They're afraid. We're forcing them to question methods they've used for thousands of years. Lisa received a message requesting her presence at another emergency meeting. This time, she took John and Samantha with her. They entered a larger chamber filled with representatives from all 127 competing civilizations. The room quieted as they walked in. The head official spoke first. The Arcturian and Rigelian delegations have formally requested that Earth be removed from competition for violating the spirit of the games. Murmurs filled the room. Lisa stepped forward. May I address the assembly? She asked. When given permission, she spoke clearly and with conviction. When Earth was invited to these games, everyone expected us to fail. No one thought we could compete against species with natural advantages we don't possess. But the essence of humanity isn't our physical strength or special senses. It's our ability to adapt, to think differently, to find new solutions to old problems. She pointed to the ancient Olympic charter displayed on the wall. Your own founding document states that these games were created to celebrate diversity of approach. Over time, you've forgotten that. You've fallen into patterns, relying on your natural gifts rather than pushing boundaries. The room was silent now, all eyes on Lisa. We haven't broken any rules. We've simply approached your challenges in ways you didn't expect. If that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps it's time to remember why these games began in the first place. A long moment passed. Then, to everyone's surprise, the Novan elders stood and began to applaud slowly. One by one, other representatives joined, until half the room was showing their approval. The final day of the Galactic Olympics arrived. After nearly a week of competition, the human team had risen to 20th place overall, something that had seemed impossible when they first arrived. The station buzzed with excitement about the final event. The combined challenge, Lisa explained to her team during their morning meeting. It tests physical strength, mental ability, and strategic thinking all at once. Each species can select 3 competitors to work as a team. Who should compete? Kevin asked. Lisa looked around at her team. John for his engineering skills, Samantha for pattern recognition, and Olivia for her zero-gravity adaptability. The chosen 3 nodded, determined but nervous. The combined challenge would take place in the central arena, with all species watching. When Lisa and her team arrived, they found the seats packed with aliens from every delegation. To their surprise, many called out encouragement as the humans passed. "You have supporters now," Lisa told her team. "You've changed how many of them think." The 3 human competitors joined representatives from the 19 other top-ranking civilizations. The Arcturians still held first place overall, with the Regelians close behind. The head official explained the challenge. Teams would navigate a massive multi-level course containing physical obstacles, logic puzzles, and strategic decision points. Success required all 3 team members to work together, using their unique skills. This event has been dominated by the Arcturians for 700 years, the announcer told the audience. Their combination of physical prowess, telepathic communication, and strategic thinking has proven unbeatable. The Arcturian team stepped forward, confident and proud. Their leader, a tall female with purple skin, glanced at the humans with what seemed like contempt. The competition began. Teams entered the course at 5-minute intervals, with results displayed on giant screens throughout the arena. The Arcturians went first, moving through the course with practiced precision. They finished in what seemed like an impossibly fast time. When Earth's turn came, John, Samantha, and Olivia stepped up to the starting line. The arena fell silent, every eye on the humans. "Remember," Lisa told them quietly, "they're expecting you to follow the obvious path. Don't." The signal sounded, and the 3 humans entered the course. Immediately, they faced a massive physical barrier. While other teams had used brute strength to overcome it, John examined its structure and found a small opening that had been overlooked, a maintenance access point that was perfectly legal to use according to the rules. Next came a logic puzzle that required rearranging energy patterns. While most teams had solved it through trial and error, Samantha quickly identified the mathematical sequence and solved it in record time. In the zero-gravity section, Olivia used techniques she had developed throughout the week, moving in ways that seemed chaotic, but were actually highly efficient. Throughout the course, the human team made choices that confused alien spectators, but proved remarkably effective. When faced with multiple paths, they sometimes chose what appeared to be the most difficult one, but which ultimately saved time. "They're not following any established strategy," the announcer commented, sounding bewildered. "They're improvising." When the human team emerged from the final section of the course, the time displayed on the giant screen caused gasps throughout the arena. They had finished 5th in the event, an unprecedented achievement for a first-time competitor. The final rankings were calculated. The Arcturians still won the overall Galactic Olympics, as they have for centuries, but their margin of victory was the smallest in 700 years, and Earth had finished 15th overall, a result that shocked everyone, including the human team themselves. As the closing ceremony began, Lisa stood with her team, proud beyond words. The head official addressed the gathered civilizations. "These games have been unlike any in our long history," he said. "We have been reminded of something important, that there are many paths to success, and that new perspectives can teach even the oldest among us." The Arcturian leader stepped forward, and, in a gesture unprecedented in galactic Olympic history, bowed slightly to the human team. After the ceremony, aliens from dozens of worlds approached Lisa and her team, asking questions about Earth and expressing interest in exchange programs. "The Galactic Council has formally invited Earth to establish a permanent embassy in the Central Worlds," Center told Lisa excitedly. "And several advanced civilizations have offered scientific and cultural exchange opportunities." As the human team prepared to return home, Lisa gathered them one last time in their small quarters.